Welcome, everyone, to Vision Untethered podcast, our special edition of Behind the Chair. My name is Jill Simonds, founder and CEO of Savvy. We help business owners scale confidently with a fractional C suite that delivers immediate results and increased value for growing companies. This special series is called Behind the Chair. Most leaders only see their own business, but there's a small group of people who sit across dozens of companies at once. They see the patterns, the breakdowns, the breakthroughs in real time. And because these aren't polished case studies, they're raw, candid conversations from the seat of the Vistage Chair. What they carry from that seat is perspective that you can't get any other way. And today, joining us is my special guest, Michael Flannery is Vistage Chair and experienced business leader who works with CEOs, founders, and executives focused on growth, leadership development, and strategic decision making. With a background as a serial business builder himself, Michael brings practical insight to scaling organizations, building high performing leadership teams, and creating strong peer advisory environments. He is passionate about helping leaders challenge assumptions, make better decisions faster, and become the best leaders they can be. Michael, I'm so excited to have you as our
Great to be
guest
here.
here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm first curious to dive in a little bit to the story and your journey that led you to choosing Vistage and becoming a chair of peer advisory groups.
Well, I was a Vistage member to start with,
Hmm.
and so I was very familiar with the organization and the value. And when, after my last engagement, I chose to semi-retire,
Hmm.
Vistage was a an easy option,
Hmm.
and I welcomed the opportunity. I was invited, then I welcomed the opportunity to
Okay.
become a Vistage chair and to uh, identify CEOs that I felt were that there was alignment with the way that I operated, which are the people in my group are growth CEOs that
Hmm.
desire to be more effective leaders and grow
Hmm.
companies.
Absolutely. Well, after working with so many of them at this point and sitting in that seat yourself, what has been the most common pattern you see that's holding businesses back as they're trying to scale?
Well, that's a good question. Um, a lot of what I see are challenges with delegation and CEOs taking on too much
Hmm.
and becoming bottlenecks in their own business.
For sure.
And so we work on that quite a bit. We work on what it looks like to practice change management, practice the Lencioni trust pyramid,
Hmm.
and learn to trust their people, learn to uh, allow their people to make, mistakes that aren't creating serious risk to the business, coaching, uh,
Mm.
helping their leaders to grow, to be more effective, and produce the results that they're looking for. And a lot of it also is about CEOs being willing to establish a critical list of KPIs that they
Hmm.
can monitor,
Hmm.
to establish very clear goals that they establish with the leaders that are responsible for those goals, and
Right.
then agree with each other that they're going to revisit those goals on a consistent basis
Hmm.
and make adjustments as they need to. But without doing those things, if you're going to be a leader that simply tells people what you expect of them
Hmm.
and then tells them when they're not hitting the mark, right? There's a lot that's missed and a lot of
Right.
frustration that's created. So
Hmm.
it's a tough question to answer because there are layers, but
Right.
I gave it a shot.
Hmm. No, a lot of there's a lot within that, and it's not just one, can't necessarily be boiled down to one thing per se. But I'm curious when you
Yeah.
mentioned the
Just happens to
bottleneck.
be that just happens to be something I'm dealing with right now in a few situations. So it
Yeah,
came to mind.
to be front and center
Yeah.
with the aspect of being the bottleneck. at what point do you see that CEOs realize and start to realize that they've become that bottleneck and the hindrance to the
Yeah.
growth outside of themselves and the company?
Well, it's like a lot of other things in life that are not, functioning as you would
Hmm.
desire. You
Yeah.
almost have to experience a level of pain that motivates you to move in a different direction first. And
Hmm.
for CEOs, that is typically burnout.
Hmm. Yep.
They get worn out by their own level of activity and their own level of trying to manage, and I call it spinning all the plates.
Yep.
And that's typically when they're more open to how can I do this differently?
Yep. Absolutely. In that too, what that phase, what's a truth that they eventually have to face about themselves? Is there like a psychological factor or a mentality that you see more often
Hmm.
that they have to face and admit,
Well,
accept?
it's yeah, that's an interesting question. I've had a couple of situations where the CEOs had brought in an EOS integrator. A lot of companies running on this EOS operating
Yep.
system these days, and
Hmm.
they had brought in an integrator, and
Yeah.
they've tried to hand all the day-to-day operations over to the integrator as a way
Hmm.
to alleviate the burnout. And that actually creates additional stresses.
Mm,
There's a better way to approach that, and think it depends on the stage that the company is in.
sure.
Um, it's the CEOs in most cases still need to be involved in making decisions about how those day-to-day operations are going to be executed on. They don't have to be the people that execute on it. They don't have to be the
Sure.
people that work with the team to create accountability. That
Hmm.
can be done by the integrator, those day-to-day operations, but they should still be involved in the decision making. And, the
Hmm.
idea that they can't do end arounds or they can't still be involved in shaping those day-to-day operations or uh, be part of the discussion on how a process is going to work
Right.
is I think missing the mark, right? So
Oh, for
so
sure.
there's books like Traction and Rocket Fuel that I think are a little bit misleading in that regard.
I totally agree with you. And having sat in that integrator role is really how Savvy came to be in practice, where I served
Oh, okay.
fractionally as an integrator. And a good handful of them were clients that I turned down. They're not anywhere near ready and understand the the building blocks necessary to even get to that point where it makes sense to have and trust somebody else in running and executing simple things like intellectual property and institutionalized knowledge and systematizing some of that framework requires so much more of that CEO to be a part of that process before you can create then that autonomy and fully let go of the dependency of your involvement there because
Yeah.
you've touched every single piece of the business prior to that. And so it
Yeah.
is
Well said.
misleading to have this
Yeah.
concept in mind of like, I can fully just take my hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
It
I mean, I,
doesn't always go well.
yeah. I mean, I completely empathize with, the challenge having been a founder before. You
Hmm.
build a company, you start it from scratch, you manage to get it to, past that 5 year mark or past that $5 million mark.
Hmm.
And yeah, it means a lot to you. It's something that you want to make sure is managed well. And
Hmm.
so there's a tendency to, the mindset tends to be, I don't think I can find somebody that can do this as well as I can do it. Right. And
Exactly.
so
Hmm.
that's a big part of the struggle of letting go.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think you do that in, incrementally, smaller
Hmm.
steps, right?
Yeah.
And so those are a lot of the kinds of things that we work on
Hmm.
with. founders and leaders that have gotten, I mean, this happens, look at the $25 million level as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
it's not just a $5 million company. We've got, companies all the way up to 100 million in the
Right.
group.
Right.
I mean, these problems are faced in different ways depending
Hmm.
on the maturity level of the company.
Absolutely.
So,
And most of
and
them
I,
boil down to a very common thread, regardless of
yeah,
the size that they are. So,
yeah,
hmm yeah, I love that you bring up that point because it's definitely a key call out. And I think it's an overzealous kind of promise that yeah, everyone's going to be ready at a certain point just because
yeah,
you're burnt out, just because you're tired and exhausted. It's like the readiness and setting that up for success is is required in order for you to let go. It's not just, it's like, yes, there's the delegate, but there's a whole system and mindset behind that to do it
yeah,
well and not just check the box.
yeah. Structure, if you
Yeah.
don't have structure, structure is a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
So a
Yeah.
system of some sort. EOS
Mm-hmm.
is good enough. I know there's in my opinion, there's a lot that
Yeah.
needs to be added to an EOS process depending on the
Mm-hmm.
complexity of the organization, but
Yeah.
have
But
a
start with that.
structure, have
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like even starting there. It's at least a let's kind of weed out all of the overcomplication and simplify this because oftentimes CEOs also aren't the best at creating the structure and living in the structure, but they are an active voice and partner to somebody who is building that structure because the rest of their teams thrive on the structure. So, yeah. So when
Yeah,
leader,
yeah, I mean a simple way to phrase that is a framework of
yes,
alignment and accountability.
yeah, exactly. When so going into alignment, accountability, and just kind of team alignment, when teams are struggling, and oftentimes, I mean, you're at the CEO level peer groups, but oftentimes issues come up regarding teams and people and right people. And do they have the team and the individuals and the competency within to grow and to do what it is that they're, the direction they're heading? What, or when they're struggling, what's usually the real underlying issue when teams are really struggling to get that momentum and traction?
So I'll stop using this phrase, but there are lots of layers on that. But I think
Mhm.
one of the primary things that I see is a lot of founders tend to be extroverted. Not all of them, but a lot tend to be sort of
Sure.
extroverted,
Hmm.
and they hire people that they like, that they've had a good conversation with. Now, that's an oversimplification, right?
Sure.
But I think the point I want to make is hire people that have demonstrated competence in the role that
Hmm.
you are, uh, placing someone in,
Yeah.
so that you don't, it's very expensive to put somebody in a role and then replace that person 6 months later. It's costly to the
Yes.
business in a lot of different ways, right? And
Right.
so, really, I think take your time hiring people, make sure there's competence in the role that you're hiring them for, make
Hmm.
sure that it's a cultural, it's pretty standard um, operating procedure when it comes to right people in the
Hmm.
right seats. But I think once you believe you have hired the person for the right
Hmm.
seat, make sure that you're both in agreement, very clear about the roles and responsibilities, define them,
Yes.
have lots of conversation about that.
Hmm.
Um, don't just say, okay, now you're in this role, be
Right.
successful.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's,
Kind of, yeah, it kind of points to, like you said, the underlying layers. But first, there's a trust aspect, but you can trust somebody while also, like you said,
yeah,
choosing people you like, you trust. Do they fully have
yeah,
that competency? Do they know it? Yeah, we just see complete. lack of clarity and accountability all the time. And just because somebody's named in a role or we've named this function or position doesn't necessarily mean that everything is explicitly outlined in terms of what those expectations, what they're accountable to, and results and outcomes and regular ongoing activity. You mentioned the KPIs earlier as well. So yeah, the lack of clarity in that accountability with roles and responsibilities, you can have a great group of people and hungry individuals that want to do well, but without that, they're stepping on each other, there's confusion, there's
Friction.
yeah. Yeah,
Lots
creates
of friction. So I
exactly.
think the other way that I'd answer that question is be careful
Hmm.
about internal hires. So
Hmm.
so promoting people internally because
Yeah.
they want a role that they may not have the
Hmm.
competency for, or just because
Yeah.
they've been there for a while and you really like them and they fit the culture.
Yep.
I've seen those mistakes more frequently than I'd like to,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you end up potentially losing somebody that was a good cultural fit, that was doing great in their role,
Hmm.
and that was liked by some of the other people in the organization as well. And so there's some pain in that
Yeah.
situation. So be very careful about that.
Oh, for sure. There's almost like this badge of honor, it seems like, for companies that hire internally, or that's this, you want to have a
Yeah.
path of development and growth within and pathways for career advancement and growth and create that as a company. And sometimes it becomes to a
Yeah.
fault, that they think
It
like
it
this is the
it
only
can't
way.
Yeah, it can
Yeah,
work. And
sure.
I've seen it work many times,
Hmm.
but also not work many times for various reasons. So
Exactly.
just
It's
another,
not a sacrifice. Yeah, it's all
yeah,
this dance between, yeah.
yeah.
Do we have somebody, or has this been kind of front and center and in mind? Like you kind of start to see that prior to needing perhaps that role, or you have some of your shining stars and there those opportunities when the right thing comes along. But I would definitely warn against that too. I mean, we've all done it. So, um, and hopeful that, it'll work out in another role, and it's not always the best, even though intentions are good. Yeah. What's something that you see across multiple companies that leaders think is just their problem, but it actually isn't, right? Companies that are like, well, this is unique to us and nobody else experiences this, or our issues aren't as relatable. Is there something that, comes to mind that
The
you see?
Yeah, I think the question that comes up most in our peer group meetings is people,
Hmm.
finding the right people in the right seats.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
grow Most of the companies in my peer group, I'm sorry, all the companies in my peer group are growth oriented companies. And so
Hmm.
some of them are in a hiring mode more
Yeah.
so than others, but
Hmm.
you know, people issues, it's either finding the right people for the organization as the organization grows, the timing on bringing those people in,
Okay.
um, situations that uh, occur with people as you're growing. These are a lot of the conversations that we
Yeah.
have in the
It's like
group
90%
meetings.
people problems. And whether they're
It
problems, but people
Yeah,
related.
people
Yeah.
related. Yeah, it's a
Yes.
better way to phrase it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say that would be the primary. There's great conversations about opportunity,
Hmm.
working with investment money,
Okay.
being
Yep.
approached by private equity, and just the how do I scale versus just grow. Scale is a very sort of misunderstood term, in my opinion,
Yeah. Right. I would
and
agree.
versus growth or high growth.
Hmm.
We talk about that quite a bit. We talk a lot about staying focused on the most important thing.
Yep.
Um, and, you know, uh, we actually put that most important, what's the most important thing for you to accomplish this year on the board? And then we
Hmm.
revisit that on a quarterly basis. How you doing?
Hmm.
In relation to this goal that you stated, what's the most important goal for you to achieve this year?
Hmm.
And a lot of times we see companies lose sight of that. Something else has
Hmm.
come up, something has gotten in the way. And, it could be because there wasn't a clear owner of that goal. It
Yep.
could be because that goal was not we didn't do root cause analysis on the most important thing.
Hmm.
Take that approach. Why?
Yeah,
The 5 why approach. Why is this the most important thing?
exactly.
So, at any rate, those are a few
Yeah, good, good
different,
ones for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those align. So now to kind of close up our this section here, we'll have a lightning round, 3
Okay.
questions. So it's kind of the first thing that pops to mind. One leadership behavior leaders must stop doing.
Solving problems.
Okay. Yeah, it's good.
Do you want to say
And
more about
no,
that?
that's okay. I'm like,
Okay.
I could say more. One thing every leadership team needs more of.
Listening.
Ooh, yeah. You're not the first person to say that one. So that's definitely a common listening. And then one mistake that leaders repeat again and again.
Taking on too much.
Hmm. Kind of goes back to the problem solving too, solving all the
Yeah.
problems. Yeah. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and the amazing impact you're making in the world, and especially right here in the Colorado entrepreneurial community. Grateful for you. If people want to learn more about you and get in touch, where's the best place that they can do that?
I'm on LinkedIn and or michael.flannery@vistagechair.com.
Great. Well, excellent. Thank you for being here. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jill. Appreciated the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Everyone else, thank you as well for being here today, and we will see you next time.